if you haven't been at the verge of getting sued, you haven't been in business long enough. Like, or or
That's
have the
so
urge to sue
true.
someone. Well, I was born and raised in Taiwan the first part of my life, and I moved to the US. I was 13. I thought, okay, it's hard to get a job with psychology, so I switched to business. And I realized I did not like accounting at all. Then I switched to Spanish, thinking I was going to be an interpreter, travel the world, and then eventually had to take an econ course as a requirement. I got a scholarship I couldn't turn down and ended up with my PhD in economics. A few years later, when GE called and said, hey, we're building people analytics team, it's called HR analytics at the time, would you like to come? Fast forward a few years later, most recently, about 2 years ago, I started my own company and left the corporate world.
Hey everybody, welcome to the ABCs for Building the Future podcast. Today we have on myself, Robert Todd, and a friend of mine, Dr. Serena Huang, who I recently met at the Sidebar Summit, and she is doing all sorts of cool work around data, people data, AI. We also learned that we're both fitness and longevity nerds, so we got along really well. As the audience knows, y'all know that I'm really into that, building in that. So I'm really stoked to meet a friend who is also a founder. And on this podcast, we bring on people doing big things with big stories to tell. Serena definitely has a big story to tell. And so, Serena, I think the first thing I'll just start you off with, and I'll ask you to give a deeper intro of yourself, is can you give an overview of the defining points of your life after, and a quick intro of what you do and how you got here?
Sure, sure. Thank you so much for having me. I had a great time meeting you and chatting about health and fitness, and I can't wait for the audience to share their notes with us after this episode, too. Well, I was born and raised in Taiwan the first part of my life, and I moved to the US. I was 13. And so I think that's one big moment in just picking up your life and moving. I moved here with my parents at the time. And then a year later, they went back to Taiwan, and I decided to stay by myself with a new family. And I found an American host family who were amazing, took really good care of me. We're still in touch today, and so I actually had two sets of parents. I'll say so. Those were big moments as a child, and then getting to college, I had four different majors. I couldn't decide what to do. I started in psychology. I was really interested in learning about what people are thinking about how they make decisions and then I needed something, more practical. I thought, okay, it's hard to get a job with psychology, so I switched to business. And I realized I did not like accounting at all. And I thought it was a required course. Then I switched to Spanish, thinking I was going to be an interpreter, travel the world, and then eventually had to take an econ course as a requirement, and I loved it because the professor was just amazing and explained their concepts, and I felt like, wow, this is like the art and the science, the math and the heart, and I loved it. So I became an econ major, graduated with that, and then I was determined to not go to grad school because I was like, oh my god, I'm tired of school, let me out of here. But then I got a scholarship I couldn't turn down and ended up with my PhD in economics. And so I think those were some of the big moments. And then I was going to, pursue academic research, maybe go to a think tank, live and work in DC. But then it was right after the Great Recession and all those opportunities were cut. So I had to get a real job. And my next defining moment, I'll say, is when I got into consulting. And I was like, okay, I'll stay open minded. It's a job. And I loved it. I was surprised by just the diversity, how much you get to learn. And, and then a few years later, when GE called and said, hey, we're building people analytics team, it's called HR analytics at the time, would you like to come? I think that's another moment of, wow, that's a pivot away from consulting because at that point I was like, oh, I'll be a partner at Deloitte and whatnot. My path is set. Not so fast. And yeah, fast forward a few years later, most recently about 2 years ago, I started my own company and left the corporate world and, and after climbing the ladders for many years. And yeah, maybe
Wait,
recently I'll
what was
count
that like? What was that
which
like?
part.
I want to double click into so much of this,
Yeah,
but I think in particular, the audience would be interested in hearing how did I go from, cushy big tech job to even
yeah,
thinking about quitting and doing my own thing. And could you take us through that in a bit more
yeah,
detail?
right. It's funny. I think people always ask me, how did you know when you were ready to leave? I don't think I knew I was ready to leave until I was in the middle of a conversation with the CHRO. And it was just a regular one-on-one. And I have been doing some, soul searching, if you will, during COVID, just like everyone did. And I started working with an executive coach and a therapist as well to work through some things. And I noticed that I was spending majority of my time in things that I didn't necessarily enjoy. So, and it's just the nature of things as you get more senior, there's a lot of things to handle. I wasn't really doing data work anymore. Basically stakeholder managing every single minute of my life. And while I got good at it, it also felt like, gosh, I didn't go to school for this and I don't want to do this forever. And so I asked myself, what really brings me joy? And there were two things that stood out. One is public speaking on live stages, preferably, and seeing those light bulb moments go off and people coming up and say, wow, I learned something. I'm going to try this immediately. That was super, you know, it resonates with me. I can relate. So those were the moments. And then the other is content creation, and I consider writing also a form of content creation. So blogs. I started a newsletter and started creating fun little videos on YouTube about health and fitness. And and I remember just how much joy I had doing those things, even though I wasn't getting paid at all. And I had to carve out time on weekends and evenings to do those things. And yeah, so I think I got to a point where I was like, I wonder if I can make a living doing just things that bring me joy. And during this process, I also got a really helpful tool. I printed out a copy just so people can see too. It's called Pie of Life. Have you seen Pie of Life?
Oh, no, I
So
haven't.
yeah, all right. So this is not like a fancy version of it, but you can look it up. Basically, you pick out you color in how you're spending your time. Are you spending this time in, health? Are you spending this time in family? Spending this time on career? And or alone with people, like you sort of map out how you spend your time. And then you think about, hey, is that really how I want to live my life? And I did that and I realized, wow, I'm spending very little time doing things I want to do that really brings me joy. And like really in the middle of the conversation. And this is probably after 2, 3 years of friends consistently telling me, Serena, I have seen you speak on stage. You need to get paid to do this. Like go on a tour and go around the world and share these experiences with people. And I thought, oh no, 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 that's not me. I don't want to do that. That's so public. I'm like, I'm happy to speak for free at conferences and just connect with people. It's okay. And until I think one day, someone reached out and was like, hey, I want to hire you to do this very specifically. Can you get approval from your company to like, is there conflict of interest? It's sort of similar industry, but not quite. And it like planted a seed. And I went back to that person, she's a partner at the law firm, and I was like, I just want to thank you for planting that seed, I don't know, 5, 6 years ago, to let me know that maybe someday someone will hire me for doing things that I love, that I'm good at. And I gave her a copy of my book. So anyway, so I think it's all those things that build up, and I started to think about it more. And then one day I was having a conversation with my CHRO, And I, basically said that I think I'm ready to do some other things, right? Additional things. Like I like the job, I'm good at it, and but I know I want to do other things that, brings me joy. I didn't say bring me joy because that sounds weird to a CHRO
in a
probably,
in a weird
but
meeting.
like, yeah, like he knew what I was talking about. So, but then basically we couldn't land on what might be next for me, and I realized, and it's not the company, and it's not him, it's not the team. Like there wasn't another job that I wanted to do inside the company, and not just within that company, but just in general. I wanted to see if I could do speaking, content creation for a living. That's it. And so I landed with ending that conversation about transition plans, and I gave them 3, 4 months, and it was was just ready to go. And
What was
so it
the
was
feeling? What was the feeling leaving that
oof,
meeting?
relief. I think it was relief.
Yeah,
For the most part, I think there was a little bit of like I'm terrified as
yeah.
well, but most of it was whew, a rock is off my shoulder, and yeah, and also, after that, I started to feel excited. Like I was visiting family in Seattle at the time, and I told my aunt, it's like, so I think I just quit my job. And she's like, what? What's the next job? I said, oh, I have nothing lined up.
Oh
And
yeah,
yeah, she was terrified. This is like, yeah,
yeah.
Asian
Definitely. I feel
elderly's worst nightmare.
yes. Oh yeah, they just want to see, the younger people just secure, steady,
Yeah,
go through the
yeah,
capitalist wheel motions, like just be
exactly.
safe, don't die.
Yeah, yeah.
That probably gave her a heart attack.
Right, right, for sure. Yeah, so I think like I'm a very intentional person, and I also consider myself very disciplined. So that was not how I planned on leaving. I think I was like, okay, I'm gonna build build out a plan. I'm going to make sure how much runway I have, all these things, and maybe get a loan if I need a loan. And but
Then it
nope, it
just
was
became all
like
alone.
nope, it just happened. Well,
Wow.
I guess
Wait,
here we
wait, wait,
go.
real quick, right there. You mentioned you're a very disciplined, like kind of structured
Yes.
planning person.
Oh yeah.
I also see myself as such. So it's kind of interesting in this transition period, you were like, just totally just didn't go that way.
Yeah.
So are you still structured and stuff in your
Ooh,
current work? Or was that a transition from super structured discipline, Serena, to a new mode or new era?
jeez. Yes. Yes and yes. So I think
Um,
definitely, I think there was so much structure and discipline that I had imposed on myself over the years that there's part of me that wanted none of it. Right? That was like, I don't want this anymore. I can,
like age.
yeah,
Yeah.
take naps if I want to at 10 a.m. And I can take PTO on the Thursday. And it doesn't have to be a long weekend. I mean, I think there's a lot of that initial sense of freedom that a lot of entrepreneurs must feel that I definitely felt. So I went through a phase of like, okay, anything is possible. Let's just do whatever. But then I think just at the core, I am more structured and disciplined as a person. So I needed, so, as I got busy, I started blocking things like, this time is for workout, this time is for reflection, and this time is for uninterrupted lunch, no social media. And I went back to that. But I've also learned to appreciate spontaneity that I don't think I did before.
How
And
so?
gosh, I think like with entrepreneurship, there's so much more chaos than in a corporate world. So much can happen in a day. Like it forces you to just be okay, be open to new things and be less rigid. And when things don't go according to plan, because they won't, you're still okay. So, being spontaneous could mean like, hey, a client canceled this work. Well, that really sucks. Instead of feeling really terrible about it and beat myself up, I'm going to enjoy a spa day and just chill or ask my friends if they want to hang out on this free day that I suddenly have. And I think those type of mindset shifts weren't as easy at the beginning. Yeah, and it took a little bit getting used to. So I think I think it's different, but also the core elements are similar.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I'm kind of picturing, you know, you were this like caged bird and then you became free and then you really enjoyed that
Yes.
freedom and you were like, well, I
Yeah.
do like some of these things. I do
Right.
like that little thing being there all the time or my
Yeah.
little feeder,
Yeah.
So
That's
cool.
right.
That's interesting to hear about that transition. Well, one thing I want to double click into, when we first met, you told me that initial story of like didn't have a thing lined up, didn't know if I can get any leads or sales or whatever, and then
Yeah.
I think you almost immediately got like a sale, right, or
Yeah.
some requests. Could you
Yeah.
walk the audience through that experience? Because
Uh,
it went from like talk with the CHRO, big rock lifted off my shoulders,
yes.
and at the same time, kind of shit. What am I doing next? But I feel
Yeah.
good. And so then you got that first sale, I think, way quicker than you had originally expected when you told me. So I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. So I think so I announced my business in, was it February? And I said, hey, Data with Serena is born, and I'm ready to speak, train, do consulting, content creation, bring partnerships. Those are some of the things that I knew I would enjoy doing. Again, with no idea whether or not people were going to pay for it. And instantly, like, I got so many messages right away that I was booked all the way to, I think, October, November that year, with speaking engagements, including on different continents, and ended up going to 30 cities within those few months, doing speaking engagements that I love with different audiences. And yeah, and I like almost got no break. And it was really shocking, but I think I did get messages, right? Like from people who I'm sure mean well, but they sort of describe that as like, oh, you are so lucky, you are overnight success. And 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 it's like there's no such thing as overnight success if you ask me. And if you ask any entrepreneur, any founder who's built anything, they'll probably tell you the same, right? Because prior to that, I had been speaking for years on stage. I had been doing workshops for the corporate clients internally, at different levels on those specific topics for many years. And
You before,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, so it wasn't starting from zero, it was just like a different audience. So I was getting paid through a salary to do some of those things, and now instead it will be a different channel. And I think, yeah, and I think I reflected a lot about, what our perception is of other people's success too, because it always seems so easy and we don't see the hard stuff. We don't see when contracts get canceled. We don't see when the flight is delayed and I'm trapped at the
When you're
airport
in
for
a fucking
days.
fetal position because of
Yes, yeah,
whatever,
exactly.
insert
Right.
XYZ here that happens in startup life, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like seriously, today nothing at all works. Nothing works. Great. This is gonna be
Yeah.
one of those days. And like I am pretty transparent about difficult things because like that was really core to my content creation philosophy. Is like I don't want to paint this picture of a perfect life of going from 0 to 1,000 in 2 days.
Yeah.
And I also do acknowledge my luck. Like I think that's something I wish other people would do more too. I always really admire people who have been successful and say, yes, luck played a role in the timing and the success and the funding I got and whatnot, right? You can be building the best product and maybe timing is just terrible. No one wants it right now, right? And 2 years later, it could be the perfect thing. So I think I started to work with AI, for example, when I was in my corporate roles, right? In where I had data scientists on my team, and we started to vet and implement AI-based technologies in HR on hiring. How do we recruit better? How do we find people who are a good fit for these jobs using AI, right? And then at some point, I was like, this seems really easy. I don't know what the vendor is selling. I bet we can build our own that's even better. So I even attempted, with my team, like, let's build this AI screening, resume screening tool and see if we can do a better job. So I had started off years ago. And I feel like now I do a lot of Gen AI strategy with different companies that I advising and with their upskilling efforts. And I do feel lucky that I had done all that work prior to that, so I could understand the difficulties, the importance of governance, the importance of data quality, and how to ask the tough questions to vendors and things like that. So yeah, I think
So
there's a
you did a
lot of
lot of the
that.
work. It wasn't
Right.
overnight success. It was like,
Absolutely not.
here's if
Yeah.
you think about step functions on a graph, right?
Yes.
Like think about the long grind of building all these skills and then step function.
Yes. Yes.
Like that's
Exactly. Yeah.
when people
Yeah.
think overnight success, they don't see this. They just see
Yes.
that.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And
Yeah.
and I'm curious because I experienced some of this too in interviewing other founders, but it's kind of lonely. And especially transitioning from not being a founder and you don't have founder friends and you just have tech worker
Oh
friends,
yeah.
then
Right.
you go from there to become a founder and you
Yes.
talk to
Yeah.
your previously 9 to 5 comrades and they don't get you.
They don't. They don't. Yeah.
That's
I
what I
can
found. So I don't
understand.
know if you have anything like that from your
Yeah.
experience.
Absolutely. And I think it hit me very suddenly one day. I don't think I realized how different it was, but it was like one day I was saying something about, it was a situation where I had a really rough time. A few clients had signed and then suddenly canceled the engagement, and then suddenly I'm like, oh, what am I going to do with my time? And should I try to chase down some more leads? Should I try doing, I don't know, some sort of special marketing to get this to work, or should I get a part-time job? I don't know, like. And
Yeah.
And then I think I had a conversation with some friends, and then again, there are W-2 employees, and even though we had similar, more senior level roles, some of them had said, "Well, at least you don't have to ask for permission to get PTO anymore." And I was like, "True, but the
My
trade-off
time
is
off's
just
not
not the
paid though.
same. It's not like that doesn't pay for
It's
my
time
mortgage."
off. It's not PTO. It's just TO
It's
now.
TO, yes. It's UPTO. And the NATO is UPTO. So, right.
That's all.
Yeah. So I think like that moment hit me really hard because I thought, oh, it's priorities that are not the same. Your perceptions, your experience is just so different. So it's definitely lonely in that sense. And so I started reaching out to meet new people, and including people who do content creation, or people who are thought leaders and do speaking, writing for a living, and started to expand that circle. And yeah, and so right now it's just taken more intentional work to do a different kind of networking, and then support each other in different ways, right? Like when you're working in the same company and you can, sit together and complain about the boss or the new policy about RTO, sure, great. But it's not the same as like, hey, now I can't seem to get this small business loan approved. Like that's a serious problem. What if I have payroll pressure, what am I going to do? Who has the experience to make some kind of magic, and like those really, I would say, high stake problems, and have people who can answer those quickly, or like, hey, I think this is a breach of contract. Should I get a lawyer to deal with it? Is that worth my time? How much is that going to cost? Like those really real problems that we all face
Super. Yeah.
is something that you need a support group who's willing to tell you those answers, and help you out in the meantime. I
Yeah.
always say, like, I joke, but not a joke. I feel like if you haven't been at the verge of getting sued, you haven't been in business long enough. Like, or
That's
or have the
so
urge to sue
true.
someone.
That's so true.
right?
That's so true.
Yeah.
You never even think about this stuff when you're a 9 to 5 W-2
No.
worker. But
Yeah,
like, yeah,
exactly.
then you go out to the, do
Yeah.
your own thing, and then all of a sudden,
Yeah, that liability is
things
on
are
you
different.
and you
Exactly.
only. So,
Exactly.
um,
So I'm
yeah.
hearing a lot of intentionality. I'm hearing a lot of the struggle and the, come up, and you've had to make a lot of effort to find people, to find the right network to support you in this chapter from a very different previous chapter. And so my next question is really about what are your core values and why are they your core values? And I'm hearing even just the way you talk, it seems like growth mindset, it seems like learning, it seems
Yeah.
like picking yourself back up and moving on anyway, even if it sucks, resilience, grit, and intentionality. And so I want to go back to the start of your journey. You said, you came over here, and your parents went back, and you decided to stay. And so that's a very bold move. And I'm hearing a journey full of bold moves, honestly. And so I'm curious, both like, was that your very first bold move? And like, what drove you then? Were you know, a lot of this arena I'm talking to today that has, done these things, like, did they have origins from that choice you made back then?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's the longer term thinking in me that I've had since I was young that drove those choices. And because like to me at the time it didn't seem bold and courageous, right? I just felt like this is, of course, the better choice because I wanted to go to grad school or even college in the US. And my logic to my parents, who didn't want to leave me here initially, was that, hey, it just simply makes more sense. I can continue to, like, mind you, I came here, I didn't speak a word of English. So I was like, hey, it's only been a year. Let me continue to learn the language and I'll get better so I can be prepared for school. And like the culture I can assimilate and learn about the American ways. And the other piece was I actually have family, right? Like I said, on the West Coast. And I chose not to live with them because, again, my argument was then I would continue to get really good at Chinese. My English wouldn't get any better. So I wanted to live with an American family and have the American experience. And they thought, oh, they thought I had, certainly gone crazy initially, but I continued to make my point and I said, look, this is better for the future. And I didn't fully realize what kind of sacrifice and difficulties I was going to run into at that age. And if I had known, I would not have done it. If someone had told me like, hey, it would be impossible for you to like do simple things like go to the bank, drive a car, and you're gonna have to navigate these things. And even if you can, if you only speak like 20 words of English, it's gonna be pretty difficult. So you have to pick up the language really quickly. Can you do all those things? I would be like, no, take me home. But but it's part of they say ignorance is bliss. But I had this vision of, I want to go to school here, and to make that happen, I need to do these things. And I think I can, but I didn't get the full picture. The same with entrepreneurship. If you had told me all the horrible things that could happen, I would be like, no,
Oh my
please
gosh,
don't sign me up for that, right?
that
And
is so hilarious.
yeah.
So
And
true.
I also I'm a firm believer of choose your heart, right? Have you heard that before? Look,
Yeah.
life is hard.
Say more about it.
Employment is hard. Being unemployed is hard. You gotta choose your heart, right? Being married is hard.
Yeah.
Being single is hard. Being divorced is hard. You gotta choose your heart. And the
Yeah.
same with, staying in this country as a child who have limited English capability is hard, but so is going back and then trying to come back again for school. That's also hard, right? And so I chose my heart. And sometimes I had moments of regret. Most of the time I don't because I know I can't learn what I have learned without it. And and that's always my encouragement to people I coach now. And even when I run into difficult situations, it's like, okay, this is not great, but how am I going to choose my heart? And and then
Have
once
you
you
always
choose, you go with it.
have you always had that, which is like even when you were a kid, you had that quote in your head, which is choose your heart, or is that
No,
more of a recent?
Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
yeah.
So I
I
was
think
going to ask
past few
subsequently,
years. Yeah.
what mental tools do you have to flip that switch to be like, this shit sucks, but I like it. This is going to be great. Because I got my own, and I think every
Yeah.
founder, if you're going to try, if you're going to succeed, like you got to have the mental tools because it's a mental game. That's what
Yeah.
I've learned.
Definitely. I think that choose your heart is a good one. And I also think about, you know, basic things like what's important to me. And you asked about my values, and I think you
Yeah,
got yeah, I think you are spot on. But like, I don't know if you've done this like values card exercise. I highly
I
recommend
haven't,
it.
but please
Okay.
send that after because
Okay.
I'm a nerd
So
about these things, and I would
yeah.
love to do that
Okay.
in
So
exchange for
basically, yeah, there's like a deck of cards you can buy, and you lay them all out, and basically you sort through them until you get to your top 5 to 10. And that's like what's important to you as a person, not what you think other people will find it admirable about you, but like what's really important to you. And after going through a lot of these changes recently, my 5 I actually keep next to my laptop, and it's like I use them as my North Star. Like when I'm deciding between speaking engagements, like, right, of course, event season is always the same every year. And then on the same week, you will have multiple possibilities and you have to decide, right? Then I use them as a North Star. Deciding which one to take on. And now I'll show you what they are. Like it's, can you see? So autonomy, you won't be surprised, but health, right? Honesty, safety, and most importantly, play.
oh, that's a
So
good one.
yeah, so I go
These just
through.
remind you.
Right.
This
Yeah, so
will
that's my North Star on what's important to me, and everything I do needs to have those 5 values in at the center. Am
is
I
it
is does this feel like
everything you
play to
do,
me?
including relationships, like friendships, family
Yes.
connection?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's a hard
absolutely.
one with Asian immigrant family. At least I found
Yes, it is. And oh my gosh, it's so hard. It's so hard. And
it's
now
hard. It's
this is
hard.
a slight tangent, but which one of these do you think is hard for Asian relationships, Asian families?
Those five.
Yeah.
Autonomy is probably the biggest one. My
Yes.
mom is always questioning my decisions.
Yeah. Yeah,
Always,
exactly.
always.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, very, very true. So, and I started to do some more, just research in general on Asian Americans and like the different generations, and I think there's the communication style that's really different. So for
Yes.
me, I think honesty is the hard one, and it's not sort of honesty, it's like the level of directness that is
Oh,
acceptable
yes.
to an Asian parent. It's very different than someone who grew up here and is used to like, hey, that what you did there wasn't very cool. Can we talk about it? This will never happen. And you don't go back to your parents and say, hey, remember how you left me at home all by myself? I'm really traumatized and we need to talk about it according to my therapist.
Yeah.
No one is having that conversation, okay?
They're like, what?
Doesn't matter.
What are you talking about? Yeah, you zoom
Right. It's
out. What are
like
you?
you yeah,
Go
like
get your A
you
plus.
were
What are you talking about?
yeah, you were fed. What are you talking about? So I think honestly, yeah, to me, like I am a very direct communicator, and I've always been, and that is not everyone's style, and especially with Asian parents and elderly, like that's sort of yeah, it's sort of difficult. But autonomy is really hard in a corporate world. Autonomy as an entrepreneur is much easier. And so I always think about that as well. Yeah.
On that
Yeah.
one, there's something that Brian Chesky said, which is an employee at a company doesn't truly want autonomy. That's what he said. It was a very controversial take, especially for
Uh-huh.
CHROs and chief people officers. he was basically saying to employees, like, you don't need autonomy. You don't actually want that. And he said, if you wanted autonomy, when you got to go pay people for payroll and you don't have money, do you want that level of
Yeah.
autonomy?
Right.
Like, you want that
Yes.
autonomy?
Yeah.
Come get it. Go be an entrepreneur. That's how you get the autonomy. And
Yeah.
when he
Right.
said it that way, I was like, actually, yes, I agree with
Yeah.
that take. I agree with
Right.
that take.
That's funny.
Because the
Uh,
autonomy doesn't come for free. That's what it.
it's
That's
not.
it's not.
Yes.
It's freedom, but
Yeah.
it doesn't come for free.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. Yeah, so I think that the values really help me think about how I want to live my life, and I have to keep reminding myself, and then it also gives me a framework if I'm turning something down, like, hey, I can make this girls trip to Napa. I have a framework, and everyone knows I use these values. They
Oh, that's great.
understand. Yeah,
I'm going to steal this and
still
use it
away.
in terms of framing my decisions to my friends. So I actually have my own core values written down in a different way. I'll share that
Oh,
with
okay.
you
Do tell.
another
Yeah.
time. Or
Okay.
yeah, I could share some of it right now if you want to hear it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have it up right
Please.
here. I kind of, because I'm typically, I don't know, I could be a workaholic nerd. That's
Yeah.
just who I am. And I'm really into growth too, and always trying to
Right.
improve myself. Something
Yeah.
that I am such a nerd about to the
Uh-huh.
nth degree. So I had this, in corporate or for work, when you're rallying teams and stuff, you've been a leader, right? Like you got to have like a purpose, yeah, vision
Oh yeah.
statement, mission
Yep.
statement, whatever.
Yep.
Those are creative statements for myself.
Hmm.
And here's an example. So my purpose statement, I aim to create a lasting positive impact on 5 billion people in the planet that lasts after I'm dead.
Ooh,
And
okay.
to do this, I will always strive to and this is where I inserted a bunch of core values. I will always try hard every single day at everything,
Mm,
even relaxing. Love
love
and
it.
take care of myself first to be my best self for others. Help everybody I have the capacity to and leave a positive impact wherever I am. Be a forever learner and keep a beginner's mindset. Breathe mindfully to cultivate peace and happiness. Think bigger picture.
Mm-hmm.
Live with purpose, intention, and autonomy. Appreciate the little things and give back to the universe. Befriend and acknowledge ego. Lead
Oh,
with honesty and authenticity in both rationale and emotion.
mm,
Constantly lean into discomfort to stimulate growth.
okay.
Love with my whole heart, like Nibbler and Poppy, a couple dogs I had, like they taught me.
Oh,
Uh,
aw.
do not allow the fear of what if to ruin the joy of what is.
Mm.
That was a late
Ooh,
addition. Yeah, I have a bunch
I
like
like
that,
that. Yeah.
and then I have a few identity statements is what I call them. I didn't
Uh-huh.
see this written out anywhere. I just created it. But my
Yeah.
belief is that we are all fragments of identities we hold together into a big mirror, right?
Yes.
And we keep refining it. The more
Yeah.
time and effort, thought, or energy we put into identities, the more
Yeah.
they become us. Like as we think, we become. So that's
Mm-hmm.
my philosophy of life. And so one of my identity
Yeah.
statements is I am the most disciplined person who makes choices to nurture my long term self. I felt like
Oh,
you could relate to that one.
yes. Yeah. I might steal.
Yeah, yeah. Yo, I'll send you this after, and maybe you could steal some of this. Send me yours. I'll steal
Please.
some of yours.
Yeah.
Here's another one. I'm a poet who uses the art of wordplay to convey complexity and emotional experiences to better self express and regulate.
Ooh.
I am an always optimist, and my ability to find the
Mm-hmm.
positive in any situation never wavers. So it's like 20
Mm.
things,
Okay.
kind of like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whenever, whenever I'm go through, I don't know if you get this. I've certainly talked to other founder friends who get this, where you get like these almost manic depression waves, where you're like, oh, I'm so excited, everything's going well, and
Yeah.
then boom, something happens, boom, another thing happens,
Yeah.
boom, another thing happens, and
Yeah.
then
Three times a day.
yeah, and then you're like, shit, I just got that phone call, God, this
Right.
cancel. Oh man, you just get beat
Yeah.
up, right?
Yeah.
And then you have
Yeah.
this micro depression, and you're like, just trying to get out of like, I just need to go to the gym, like my
Yeah.
spirit is down, right? I always
Yes.
go back to this document and read what did
Yeah.
previous me say in a
Right.
lucid state, unhindered by flight or fight kind of stress
Yeah.
response. And it helps. It
Yes.
helps a lot, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Oh my gosh,
Is that
so
how you
good.
used yours?
Sometimes I think where I when I'm down, what I've done is I go back to messages from clients, colleagues who
Oh
have
yeah.
share how I've made an impact, and just to
Oh,
remind myself. Yeah, because I feel like I think it depends on the degree, right? Like if I'm
yeah.
so down that then my, data brain is gonna go off and find all the
Yeah.
evidence of like you are not doing great. And then at
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
moment, I need to counter it with
With some good
facts
data points.
that I
Yeah.
cannot argue with. And
Yeah.
it might still be like, oh, that's just okay. That's not 5 stars, and whatnot. But
Yeah.
it's a lot better than me trying to tell myself things. And I mean, maybe there's something to work on, but it's just like I found that to work for me. And I will remind myself, hey, remember how far you've come when I'm doing that too, because I think progress is something we need to continue to celebrate, and we don't really pause and take the time. And that's something I've been trying to do a little bit more, like every week, celebrate something. Doesn't matter big or small, but you've got to find something that you want to celebrate this week, right?
Yeah.
And it can be as small as you are down and now you got out of bed.
Went to the
That's
gym.
good, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Anything.
yeah, or you fix a bug, right? Like, and you don't have to be
Yeah.
shipping features to celebrate something, but something on a regular basis. I think that's really good for us.
I think so too, psychologically, because and philosophically, taking a step back a little bit, I'd love to hear your thought on this. I have this belief, or maybe this philosophy, that humans, we're naturally complacent. We get used to a
Oh,
standard
yeah.
of living,
Hmm.
and
Yep.
then we get complacent about it.
Yes.
And I think that is actually, like, I call it the complacency demon.
Yeah.
And I think you have to fight it. Like,
Yeah.
I go fight that every day with my morning
Yeah.
routine. And so yeah, do you subscribe to that idea of like you gotta pick gratitude, you gotta look on the bright side, you gotta fight that complacency demon? That's certainly how I look at it.
I think I do. I would say not everyone needs to, though. I think
Tell me more.
I think complacent has such a negative connotation, right? Like we always have to be growing and we always have to be getting better. But some people don't. And they are, like I guess my philosophy is if you're happy with that, then that's your business. It is not up to
What is
me to try to get you to grow and not be complacent. If you're happy being complacent for the next 25 years, who am I to say you are living
yeah.
your life the wrong way? And I won't live my life that way. And that's my choice. And yeah, and I don't know, because I think in a lot of my conversation with strangers over the years, I've just come across people who seem complacent, right? Or who would fit, like, if they talk to one of us, would be like, oh yeah, super complacent. and and they're really happy and fulfilled and they have a good life, in their standards,
Well,
and they love their
well, real
and
quick,
all
I
that.
would
Yeah.
say how I defined complacent just now might be different than the way that you perceived it. So
Okay.
let me
Okay.
just
Fair.
align.
Fair.
So when I say
Yes.
complacent, I mean like somebody who isn't even grateful for life, like who isn't even grateful to just be here. Not
Ah.
that you have to
Okay.
go push yourself every day to self-actualize and be the
Got
best
it.
person ever, right? It's more
Okay.
like,
Okay.
do you even just like what you have? Like we got one
Oh,
ride in this life. Are you
yes.
even
Yeah.
enjoying the ride? Right?
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
growth and
Gratitude.
self-actualization is on a curve,
Yes.
right? It's sort of like crossing the chasm, Moore's like adoption technology life cycle curve, right? Like
Yeah.
how many people are ultra biohacker longevity people, nerds that are going to therapy every week,
Yep.
turn
Right.
self-actualized, growth mindset all the
Yep.
time, writing
Yep.
books, like being
Yep.
athletes. That's like 1.5%, probably
Yes.
even less than the
Right.
population.
Yeah.
And I'm saying actually most people could just do better with just a minute of meditation every day, just appreciate what they
Yeah.
have. That's really what
Yes.
I'm saying is the
Got it.
complacency
Okay.
demon, I think
Yeah.
tells you that it always is like, oh, there's more out there that you don't have. There's gaps in your
Yeah.
life. Like
Yeah.
it's the thing that drives the whole keeping up with the
Yeah.
Joneses or the capitalism
Right.
wheels. Like that's
Fair.
how I think about it. I mean,
Okay. Okay. I
there's
misunderstood.
certainly
Yes.
there's certainly part of it too where I think there's levels to it where when I've been depressed, for example, I feel pretty complacent about life. I tend to look at the bad
Yeah.
things.
Right.
And one of the mental tools I have now and always go back to is I just think about my great grandparents worked in a rice paddy. I get to just click keyboard buttons and
Yeah.
make more money than he ever did. What do I have
Right.
to complain about? You know,
Yeah.
like that
Yeah.
helps. That helps me in particular to keep
Yes.
the complacency
Yeah.
demons away.
No,
But
I
anyway,
think the gratitude is a underrated tool. I wish
yeah,
I wish gratitude was taught in like I don't know preschool, and
I think that
let's
would be
say
cool.
require curriculum for people in K through 12. I think we will
Yeah,
be a very different generation if that was the case.
totally.
But I remember in like I remember this research that found you can't you can't feel grateful and anxious. You can't feel
Oh, is that right?
grateful and sad. Like that's one of the things that is so strong and powerful when you are truly feeling gratitude, you're in that gratitude zone and you can't feel anything else. And I don't know if it's true for everyone. It's been true for me. And so when COVID hit and everything was really difficult, I started a group chat with friends where we're just sharing gratitude notes every day. And it was like
Beautiful.
something simple that we're
I love
grateful
that.
for. It was like,
Yeah,
I got up this morning, I didn't have COVID. I'm grateful. Okay.
huge,
Like,
huge.
yeah, I have coffee, in my house and water so I can make espresso. Great. What else is there to
Amazing.
complain about?
Nothing.
When Starbucks open back up, I'm like, I have a car, I can drive to Starbucks.
Yeah,
That's, and it doesn't take a lot, but it takes a different muscle than what we're being trained to use. So yeah, I really
yeah.
wish that was a life skill we were taught
We just
earlier.
teach.
Yeah.
We could be the change that we want to see, Serena. So
Yes,
actually, quick
we
question.
can be.
What are you what are you grateful for lately, Serena?
Oh, I am, gosh, I'm grateful for the new communities I found, really you included. So many people I met at the Cyber Summit were just amazing and like high achievers who are also humble. Like, how is it possible? I don't understand. Like, how are you not, standing on some stage and shouting out all these accomplishments? It's, anyways. Yeah. So the new community for sure, and I think anyone who has shown interest in talking to me about the controversial topics like the intersection of AI and well-being and inclusion, I've been really
Which
grateful
we will
for
talk about,
because
which I want to
yes,
talk about for sure.
yeah, because I think it's not mainstream. Like it's like, well, I don't know if it's mainstream or not. Who am I to say? But yeah, it means a lot to me. Research that I've done and people are interested in it. So, say those
Yeah,
two.
thanks for sharing. I'll share one. I
Yeah.
lately have just been grateful for being alive and just existing and having the opportunity to exist.
Yes.
That is
Yes.
something that I just go to. I'm like, okay, at least I'm here to have
Yes,
quote
you
bad
are.
experiences, right?
Yep. Yes.
So
Yeah.
on that note, I would love to hear more about what you just talked about, the intersection of diversity, equity, inclusion, people analytics, AI, workplace well-being, all of those things.
Yeah. Yeah. So I recently wrote a book on the topic at the intersection of all those three things that you mentioned. And the core of the book is really that you can't have well-being without inclusion. You might even have a little postcard, not a
I love it.
coaster, not a postcard. Yeah,
Right.
and that's kind of the main message I had a hunch on. I thought, hey, these two things are connected. And in HR functions, a lot of times they sit in completely different parts of HR, right? Like usually well-being might be part of benefits, could be part of EHS, sometimes somewhere else. But then DEI or however that's called these days, that sit somewhere else, and they don't talk to each other. And what I notice is both sides of the house have so many initiatives and programs that are thrown at employees, and they're coming from the same budget, and employees are overwhelmed by things coming their way. But and I always wonder, why don't they work together? It seems like the concepts are connected. So I had this hunch that they actually are. And I remember some of the survey analytics I had done in the past. I found that teams that report higher levels of well-being, higher levels of belonging, inclusion, also report a higher level of well-being. And of course, it's all self-reported, right? Like I'm not measuring their blood pressure or anything like that. But but there's always a correlation that's really strong between the two. So I thought, huh, is that just me? And and I started talking to people, and then I thought, you know what? Of course, it's connected. When you are excluded at work, when you feel excluded, whether it's a meeting that you didn't get invited to, a decision that was made without your input that impacted your career, you felt left out, you felt excluded. You probably didn't feel very good that whole day, probably a whole week. And if it continues to happen, you start to wonder, what is wrong with me? Do I have a future here? Why am I not in the group? And so there's a really strong connection between certainly inclusion and our mental health, which we know is connected to our physical health. So so as I started the research, I noticed there isn't a ton out there connecting the two, like academic research wise. There's a lot of books on DEI, there are lots of books on workplace well-being, but none connect the two. So yeah, so that's what the book is about. And essentially I said data is the connection point, right? And that's how I found the connection. And now with AI, we can do much more with the data we have, and we can measure things like inclusion and well-being in faster and better ways than before.
Wait, could you tell me more about that? How can we use AI
Yeah.
to? I love all of that setup and I love that story, but how can tell the audience and myself how can you
Yes.
use AI more towards that?
Yeah. So if you think about it, inclusion, how do we measure inclusion? Like, do you feel like you belong? Sure, we can send out surveys and I can ask you, do you feel like you can speak up here and things like that? But then you don't know what you don't know, right? A lot of times when you're not invited to, let's say, a golf outing on a weekend, let's say a happy hour that happened, you weren't there. You didn't even know you were excluded. But if I had access to the metadata, let's say, just calendar invites even, I would know to what extent you were excluded from the core group near you. And and like that gives me a different kind of signal, compared to the surveys. And so I think like there are lots of things that you can do with that more advanced data analytics to map out where exclusion is happening. Is it under certain leader? Is it more likely to happen within certain generations? Is it when the manager and the employees are from different generations, or maybe they're from different offices? And whatever the situation is, and kind of explain the why so that you can create a plan to address it. When it comes to well-being, of course, again, we can do surveys, we can do text analytics with AI now much easier and identify things like burnout signals much earlier than before. Like you can, of course, look at log on hours, when are people online and things like that. You could also detect that from the text that people are saying and maybe the Slack channels and whatnot. So lots of data, lots of opportunities. But you can take it a step further and give employees wearables, have them opt in to be part of the analytics and understand sleep patterns, understand are they really, sitting in the chair all day? And that's really unhealthy. And then do more with that. And so we have so many more opportunities to get more real-time data than the traditional way of one engagement survey a whole year, maybe a couple questions around these really important topics, and still really having no idea what to do afterwards because, gosh, that's one data point per year. I
Yeah.
just think, yeah, we have so much more work that we can easily do now than before because of AI.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I think AI, like any tool, like a double-edged sword. I think every tool is a
It
double-edged sword.
is.
You can always
It is,
hit
yes.
a nail into a wall, or you could drop the hammer on your foot, right? Like,
Yeah.
so same thing with this. I actually saw my previous company, Workday, got sued because apparently their
Oh,
AI recruiting
yes.
algorithms are
Yep.
perhaps, and I don't think this is proven, but perhaps unbiasedly ranking candidates based on demographic
Yeah.
heuristics, which is just
Yes.
totally not good. And then to
Yeah.
your point, you don't know what you don't know. So we don't
Right.
know the numbers of people, and they don't know that they got excluded from recruiting processes just because some
Right.
AI black box decided 1 point below, 1 point
Yeah. That's
deducted,
right.
no
Yes.
reasoning, right?
Yep.
And so I'm curious when you consult with companies, because I work as a technologist in the space. I've worked at Workday, at Dayforce, and really high ranking product and technology roles. I find that not all leaders, and in fact, most have to be sold on this as like a thing. I don't know. Like, do you get this where
As as
it
a
feels like
thing
an
for
uphill battle? Selling them on we should use people analytics to make sure people feel included
oh,
so they do their
yeah.
best work so we make the best freaking products. Like to me,
Oh,
it's like I just said that one sentence. I bet I could find other people that agree, but it is hard to find a chief product officer or a chief technology officer or a chief whatever officer to go agree with that and go do something about it. They may
yeah.
agree in like principle, but
Mm-hmm.
I find the action part is very difficult. So like, how do you
Yeah.
navigate these engagements, right? Because
It is.
you're making culture change. That's hard inherently.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. I think a couple things, right? Like people analytics is definitely not as mature as, let's say, customer analytics, right? Marketing analytics have been around for a lot longer. So some companies still don't have a very mature function around that, and their leaders might think, oh, it's just reporting, just the headcount reports, that's all you get. It's so much more. So I think there's a maturity there I do want to acknowledge. But then taking that to a step further on things like inclusion and well-being, that now of course has become more controversial than before. I found two things. One, people will only change their minds when they're ready to change their mind. And there's not enough data and story that you can throw their way if they just don't want to change their mind. And and those people are probably not my clients, right? And and that's okay, right? No, nobody needs to have every
Yeah,
person in the world as their client.
totally.
And maybe it's just timing. Maybe 2 years from now they will change their mind. It's just not today. And then two, what I found to be most helpful is to not try to solve problems that they don't have, is to actually find a problem that that can be solved doing this work. And right, like
What were some examples of that?
so for example, in people analytics, the go-to predictive analytics model, the ML model people always build first is attrition prediction model. Who's going to leave, when, and why, right? Like I built 4 or 5 of this my own and predicted my own departures. Great. This thing works. But guess what? If your company is downsizing and you have no growth coming your way, you are just like trying to hold on, you are not going to care about a predictive attrition model. There's no way anybody, no matter how many PhDs they have or how great the model is performing, can sell the CEO that model. So it has to solve a true business need. And when it comes to things like well-being, right? It's not so much that if you try to sell to a CEO that, hey, let's make everyone, CrossFit champions. Sure. No, are we CrossFit? If not, I don't care, right? That's not the level that makes sense for any normal company. But if you're starting to see things like, hey, we're seeing a lot of absenteeism from sick leave, we're seeing long-term leave because of medical issues. We don't know what exactly, because that's private, but we're seeing that trending upward. So much so that we are unable to meet our customer needs. Okay, that's a real problem. And your solution to that is to improve health and well-being. Any CEO will listen to you at that point. So I think it's finding those opportunities that make sense and where you can make an impact and they want to invest because it makes sense to reinvest. That's the sweet spot.
Got it. So to reflect back what I'm hearing, culture change is hard. Really understand the ICP. If it's not ICP where they don't want to change culture, probably not your ICP, right? Probably
Yep.
different. Maybe they're not at the stage of problem awareness that they need
Yeah.
to be in your
Right.
funnel. And so you mentioned like maybe in 2 years they'll be ready, right? Like that makes a lot of sense. And then the other part that made sense was align it with business value of where they
Yeah.
see the problems tied
Yeah.
to people
Definitely.
analytics to employee
Yeah.
well-being and
I
belonging.
right. So, something I had learned, and I credit this to being part of GE. That was my first corporate job at GE, and I'm sure it still is. Finance was king. Meaning nothing gets approved if if the CFO is not happy, nothing gets signed off. And so I learned very early on in people analytics that everything I did had to have quantifiable benefit and quantifiable ROI, and it better be 6 to 12 months and not like 5 to 7 years because I would not get approved. So I had learned to speak that language very early on in my career, and guess what? I found that money talks everywhere else. So if you're able to speak that language of money and show that this is going to either make the company more money or save the company more money, if you can do those one of those things, you are on the right track. And if you can't
I
do
love that.
either, just find something. You got to find something else to do.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Learn that
yeah,
skill, then figure
yeah.
it out. But then this goes
Yes.
back to what you said, which is obviously this was not an overnight success because you were building these skills, cooking in the kitchen, working hard on these
Yes.
skills to even learn how to express the business value of people analytics. Like even that
Yep.
in in itself, like that level of
Yeah.
sales ability, like so
Yep.
true, so true. I know we're getting over time, so I'm gonna transition and end it with the
Okay.
last question I always ask my guests,
Sure.
which is if you had 1 hour with your younger self, just starting their career, what are the top three things you would discuss with them in that hour? Like
Oh,
younger
yeah.
Serena, pre econ, pre anything.
Wait, how old am I? Younger?
Whatever you imagine in your head as an appropriate
Okay.
time.
Okay. Man. Okay. All right. Gosh, I think my number one advice would be it's okay to ask for help. In fact, it takes courage to ask for help. It's not a weakness. I found that to be really challenging to ask for help, and partially because when I didn't ask for help, I was able to successfully navigate a lot of challenges. So it sort of became, oh, I don't need to ask for help. But there were times where I could have asked for help much sooner and my life would have been much easier and I could be healthier. And I had to really learn, kind of unlearn certain behaviors to do that differently. And then the other is it's okay to change. It's okay to change. And it's okay to change your mind. It's okay to change yourself, like what you want to do. I think there were lots of moments when I finally got that dream job, finally got that dream whatever, and then I thought, "Oh, this is not what I thought it was going to be," and just not knowing the full picture, right? And it's okay to change your mind on what's important to you. And then finally, man, I think this, how do I put this? Be as compassionate towards yourself as you are to others. I think that's how I'm wired. Many Asian immigrants the same way, very tough on myself. Like I have very high standards, right? And it's like, okay, well maybe cut yourself a break sometimes. And because I would not hold other people to the same standard, and why not? You know, something, gosh, over time I've run into really good therapists, some not so good, but a really good one told me this one thing, and I never forgot. Because I repeatedly said something along the lines of like, I just wouldn't hold other people to this standard, but I think I can do it. She goes, Serena, why is that? What makes you so damn special? I was like, excuse me? Yeah. And she said, seriously, let's talk about it. You've been on this train for a long time. Let's talk about it. Why are you different? Why are you special? Why are you better than other people? She kept going. I was like, okay, I get your point. And it takes humility. It takes, just a different kind of thinking to acknowledge, you know what? You're right. I'm not different. I'm not a superhuman. Even though I wanted to become superhuman, ultimately I'm not, and I'm just a regular person. And I can hold myself to the same standards as I hold other people. I think, yeah, I think it took so many years of work, and yeah, and I think so much of that was like, um gosh, over time, I even packaged that into like, this is a good thing that you are different and you are special and you're unique. And but then ultimately, it just like the bar keeps getting higher and higher, and it wasn't super healthy for me. So I was grateful for the honesty. This therapist was just bold to call it out.
That isn't a. I think we're really similar. We got to talk more about this, but I think it's the Asian immigrant background because I have the
Right?
same
Yeah.
lessons learned. The very last one, I have a question for you, which is you clearly have not lowered your bar of excellence, but it seems like you're happier. So then how do you
Mm.
I think the learning to me that I've gotten, and I'm wondering if it's the same for you here, is how do you keep a high bar of excellence but still be happy?
Ooh. I think it's
Like,
simple. I think if you're living in your values, it's easy to be happy.
yeah,
Um,
that's a good
yeah,
that's a good point.
I
Put it.
think that's it. And because I'm not spending time and energy on things that don't align with me.
Yeah.
I gosh, I never thought this day would come, but like last month, I turned down two big paid speaking engagements because what the client stood for and what they wanted from me just weren't aligned with me. Could I
Wow.
could I fake it and deliver something? Yeah, sure. Could I use the money? Yeah, of course. Who can't? But ultimately, I was like, no, it doesn't feel good. There's something in my gut that's telling me
Yeah.
no. Yeah, and I'm proud of myself for saying no, because
High
I
five
think
to
before
you.
just
That's amazing.
thank you. Yeah, because before doing all this hard work, I would have been like, okay, I'll just convince myself. I would just close my eyes and
Yeah.
I would just
Yeah.
do it, and it's okay. I don't have to talk to them again. But like realistically, I'm thinking, nope, that is how many meetings, how many hours I'm gonna spend with them, and every time I'm going to be like, there's the little voice
Talks to your
that
soul a
knows
little bit.
you are like, this is not your values,
Yeah.
and it's gonna get louder and louder. So
Yeah.
yeah, and your body always knows. I think a big part of my journey has been learning to trust my body, learning that
Hmm.
I actually know deep inside. And because as a data person, I'm very cerebral, and sometimes I try to come up with things to convince my body otherwise. But your body knows. Your body knows a lot when you are in a
Your body's
situation
got a
in a
model.
group.
It's pretty refined.
Yeah, exactly. When you're in a situation that you're not comfortable in and you're convincing yourself, deep down you know. You just are not listening.
Yeah. Yeah. Could I also share a thought and get your opinion for
Yeah, of
closeout on this
course.
topic?
Yeah. Yes.
One of the learnings I've had is you have to separate out your worth from the outcome of what you do.
Oh, yeah.
And I, it took me a long time to get there. Lots of time, lots of therapy time to get there.
Yeah.
Sounds like you too. And the biggest thing for
Yes.
me was just realizing my worth is in my ability to put in effort. Like,
Mm.
yes, I have
Mm-hmm.
a high bar of excellence for the outcome,
Yeah.
sure. But if the outcome isn't what I wanted, but I put in the prerequisite effort that only I know I could judge my own effort,
Mm-hmm.
then I'll feel satisfied if I put in the effort. Like that's where I've gone to is no matter what the
Yeah.
result is, if I put in the effort that I believe I could put in, then I feel happy about it.
Yeah.
I'm curious if
Yeah.
that resonates with you at all.
It does. It does a lot. And that's a hard one. I think that for high achievers and immigrants, all those, it's very hard
Hard.
to unwind, right? And because, whatever it was, right? Lots of parents who sacrificed so much for us to be
Yeah.
here, and
Yeah.
and all of that is kind of on the back of our minds, right? And no one
Yeah.
explicitly said, at least no one explicitly said to me, like, we've sacrificed so much for you, and you must be grateful, and pay back by
Oh,
achieving a lot.
yeah.
No one has said those
Yeah.
things out loud, but somehow it's somewhere in there, right?
Take it on.
And it's in the code. And
Yeah.
so I think learning to separate worth, you're like, you're worthy as a person without doing anything else. You're
Period. Just
worthy
period.
simply as you are, and you don't need to change a thing. You don't need to do anything. You don't need to achieve anymore. You are worthy. I think that was so hard. And growing up as I think I didn't like, that's not something I heard from family. Like,
I
that's
see.
just not
Yeah.
not the thing, right? And so it
Yeah.
was always like, when you achieve something, then you are met with, great job, like,
Missions,
yeah,
like
exactly.
good
So you're
things,
learning, oh,
hugs.
that's what I
Yeah.
should be doing. And over
Yes.
time, when it's all intertwined, like, I must achieve more to be worthy, then eventually you get into a situation where you're like, maybe I'm now sick, I can't achieve right now, or heck, no one should be achieving every single day all the time. Like,
Hmm.
maybe today
Hmm.
I'm resting, that's okay. And it just takes a lot to kind of unwind. So
Yeah.
yeah, and like, I think the best thing I've heard in in
Hmm.
in that, so I'll see if this resonates with you, is
Yeah.
if you think about if you think about a newborn, a really cute newborn that you're holding in your hands, maybe your friend's new baby. You look at this baby. Do you think that baby is worthy?
Yeah.
Most people will say yes, right? Like,
Yeah.
inherently,
Yeah.
that baby
Yeah.
is worthy. Okay, that baby is not going to be able to speak, can smile, probably will cry a lot, and would need all kinds of help, completely dependent on the adults. But we say that baby is worthy and we're going to take care of the baby. Why?
Mm.
Because that baby is human, and just because
Yeah.
he or she exists, right? That's
Yeah.
it.
Work.
So it doesn't have to do
Yeah.
anything else. Doesn't have to be cute, or it doesn't have to win beauty pageants or smile and all of that to be worthy. Like, we're not saying,
That's
hey,
a
if
good.
you don't smile today, you don't get milk, right? But
Yeah.
but like,
Yeah.
we have this version as an adult of, you don't smile, you don't get milk. Of like, hey, if you
Yeah.
didn't
Totally.
achieve this, you are not good.
You don't get
And
whatever. Yeah.
right? Yeah. You don't get a
But
break until you get this done.
you don't
It's,
deserve
you
whatever
don't
X Y
deserve rest.
Z.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
You're
You don't
not good
deserve a
enough.
rest
You know. You're
or
not. You're
vacation.
nothing. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
so I go back to that baby, and yeah, yeah. Or like, even, gosh, This will sound strange, but even a puppy, right? If baby is not your thing
Yeah.
and puppy is more your thing, think about a puppy. Like that puppy is
Yeah.
worthy, and it's very, it's like not even potty trained, but
Yeah.
but think about
Yeah.
all the things we're willing to do because the puppy inherently is worthy. So why can't we do the same with ourselves when we have worked so hard, we have done so much, overcome all these things? Why do we need to do more to earn whatever it is that, just don't need to be earned? Things like rest, things like relaxation, things like
Yeah.
food and vacation. And,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
Totally.
so I think about that a lot. And yeah, I'm continuing to work on it. It's definitely a work in progress.
Same here. Let's keep exchanging notes and exchanging accountability
Yes.
over this work in progress, over the kind of neural pathways our minds go to be our
Yeah.
own enemies sometimes, you know?
Yeah. Absolutely.
I loved our conversation, Serena. This
Me
was
too.
wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing your journey, your
Yeah.
transformative moments, your core values, and making space for me to share some of mine as well. It was very lovely. And also, thanks for double
Likewise.
clicking into your areas of expertise, like with AI
Yeah.
and people analytics and all of that and belonging. That was very fascinating. I love nerding out about those things. So we'll have to do a
Yeah.
part two in the future
I think
for
so.
sure.
I think we need
And
to.
we'll definitely need
Yes.
to be in touch about the Asian immigrant, the connection thing, because we haven't talked about that actually
Yeah.
out of the podcast too much. But this
Right.
is a thread that we should just talk about more because I feel like I could learn more from you. And it sounds like you deeply
Yeah.
thought about this. I've given a
Yeah.
lot of thought too. So
Yeah. Me
would love to
too.
stay
Me
connected
too.
there.
Yes. No. Yeah. Maybe one
Yeah.
day I'll have my own podcast and I get to interview you. I think you have
Hell yeah.
even more interesting stories than mine.
No, comparison is the thief of joy. That's another one in my
That's true.
values, Serena.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's true.
And
All
yeah.
right.
We'll just
Yes.
both be interesting. We'll just both be
Yeah.
interesting.
We are. We certainly are.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
we're
yeah.
both worthy and interesting.
Yes, yes. Even our inner child, kid, baby selves are worthy
That's
and
right.
interesting.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks everybody for listening to the ABCs for Building the Future podcast. This has been an awesome interview with Dr. Serena Huang. If you are a company that needs people analytics work at the intersection of AI or employee belonging, or you need Gen AI strategy help, Serena is your woman. So I'll have all of her links in the show notes. Please reach out to her. And if you got any questions, throw them in the comments and we'll get to them. Thanks a lot, Serena. And I hope everybody has a great day.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye bye.